But anyway, so yeah, I'm gonna, I guess after lunch, after our show here, and then after lunch, I'm gonna jump on Candy Cook's show for just a minute. She was nice enough to ask me to come kind of speak to her group, and I think it's mostly real estate folks, or maybe people training to be real estate agents. I'm not sure, but I said I'd be happy to do that, and so that ought to be a good time. And she just asked me to kind of talk about the COVID stuff, what happened to me, and what's going on. So I'll be doing that today afternoon. And yeah, you said who to know the impact of if you get it better. I was at a store just last night, and the cashier, was saying, "But yeah, everybody's coming in, and a lot of people say this is just a big joke and politics and blah blah." And I said, "Well, let me just tell you something. I got it." And she said, "Oh, did you end up in the hospital?" I said, "I was in the hospital." I said, "I'm lucky to be here today." So the next time you have a customer come in saying, "Oh, this is nothing," you could tell them, that I said, "Oh, it is something." And then I ran across an appraiser, in fact, yesterday, and he was kind of saying the same thing. This is nonsense. We need to get back to work. And I said, "Look, buddy, I don't know if you know about me or not, but I got it." And his demeanor changed immediately. And I said, "I'm with you that we can't live our lives in fear. That we do need to do what we need to do, but in the same token, we do need to take this serious because it is serious." And he kind of backpedaled a little bit. Once he found out that I actually had it. So it's kind of interesting.
Well, and I think the problem we run into is that it doesn't affect everybody the same way. And
Right.
That's the challenge that we've got.
Yeah, the interesting thing, and I know we've got 100 folks or so watching, and more coming in the door every second. And guys, we'll get started in just a few minutes. But you're absolutely right, Craig. The interesting thing on that is you have some folks that have had it or have it right now and are asymptomatic. They're going on about their day-to-day issue that they have no earthly idea that they have it. And then you go from that all the way up to people, getting it and impacted greatly and dying, right? So it really is going from one extreme to another. It really is phenomenal how that thing works. And we did sign up in my area. They did just give us Julie had contacted a couple of places to see about donating plasma, and I guess they weren't doing it here. We could never get any insight on it. But then the Red Cross did reach out to her and then me just a couple of days ago and asked if we would be interested in donating. And I, without hesitation, said, absolutely. And then they sent an email and said, "Okay, well, we need some sort of documentation that shows you had it." And I said, "Well, that's fine. I'll just send you a copy of my lab report." And so she was able to send me my lab report because her medical agency did it. And we sent that to the Red Cross, and they sent back and said, "Great, thank you very much, and we'll be in touch." So maybe that she and I be donating some plasma if it's determined we indeed have those antibodies, which we should have since we both had it. So yeah.
Well, and it's got to be nice to have people who can donate this, because every indication is that can be a helpful way to deal with it for those who get it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I can donate multiple times. I don't know the protocol behind it all, but I'm certainly willing to help in any way I can. I had a lot of people rooting for me, and I had a lot of prayers, and I had, a tremendous amount of support, and that means so much when you're in a hospital and they don't let anybody in there. You're quarantined, and the one person that comes in has a mask and a shield and, and everything else. So, it is a very lonely feeling to be in there, and a little scary, obviously. So, all right. Well, I'm getting everything ready here, and I think I'm about there, and we're actually a couple of minutes after. So let's go ahead and get started. Today, I get to say good morning, appraisers, and anybody else watching. This is Bryan Reynolds. You're watching the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. These webinars are brought to you free of charge, complimentary to you, and they are brought to you the fourth Thursday of every month. We massage that date sometimes around the holidays or if something's going on. We're not going to bring you the report on Thanksgiving, although, I've learned how to really carve a mean turkey now if I smoke it or boil it. But we can massage those dates a little bit. But normally it's the fourth Thursday of every month. It's 10 o'clock Central Standard Time. And we invite you or whoever else that would like to attend on the program. You get to participate. Ben just shot over and said we've got well over 200 people now watching. So that's fantastic. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And we bring these to you in an effort to provide you with information. You might not always like the information. You might hate the information. You might not like the guest. You may hate the guest. That won't be the case today. But
you never know.
But, it's okay to disagree. It's okay to have a difference of opinion. We just want to kind of keep it professional and civil and, don't call me a dummy. But other than that, this is merely a conversation, and we do not do what a lot of other folks do and say you have to say, on my way to the office, I heard on the radio, a news channel, and they're going to have a special guest on, right? It's going to be a town hall. And the commentator said, so you've got just a little bit more time to write your questions in. and the event's not till tomorrow, I think, right? So they want to get those questions in advance on little pieces of paper so that they can research them and have a very well-prepared response or statement. Or if they don't know the answer to the question, they have time to look it all up. This is just a real live conversation right now with Craig and I. I mean, if you ask me a question I don't know, I'm going to have to say, I don't know. If you ask Craig a question, we don't want him to BS you. We want him to say, I don't know. But since you asked that question, neither he nor I know the answer, we're going to look up the answer. We're going to research and try and find that answer, and we'll get back to you on that. So you have the ability to ask questions, and they are live questions. Finally, we occasionally have a special edition webinar. And so the way that you're going to know about those the best is if you go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now. So somewhere you should see a red subscribe button. Go ahead and click subscribe, and that will kind of keep you in the know. You'll know when we have one of those special editions. Otherwise, you might miss out on it. We had a special edition on Monday with Julie Jones. And guess what? We've got another special edition webinar, a non-regularly scheduled event on next Monday with Freddie Mac. So that'll be at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time with Scott Reuter, a chief appraiser with Freddie Mac. And I bet almost everyone watching this program right now has never had a chance or opportunity to ask a question of Freddie Mac. Well, we're giving you that opportunity. Appraiser eLearning is giving you that opportunity. And Scott was gracious enough to volunteer to be in the hot seat, if you will. So we're looking forward to that as well. Finally, all of our sessions are recorded. So if you can't watch this one in its entirety and you would like to come back and watch it a little later, you are most certainly welcome to do that. And without further ado, let me talk about my guest real quick, Mr. Craig Morley. He is the president of the National Association of Appraisers. For all you real estate agents out there and brokers, he is the chair of the valuation committee of the National Association of Realtors. Craig is a practicing appraiser. He's a former board member. He's a great guy, and he has a heart of gold. He tries to give back to the profession. He records a lot of videos on, hey, look at this new little cool tool I've got. It's working great for me. I thought I'd share it with you. And so I'm very honored and thankful that Mr. Craig Morley has agreed to join us today. Craig, good morning, and thanks for being here.
Bryan, it's always a pleasure. It's fun to be able to interact with our appraiser associates, and I think this is a great venue to get people to get some interaction, see what's going on.
Yeah, it really is just a conversation. You know, I teased Julie about that the other day. We don't have a script. I mean, I have nothing in front of me. Sometimes I'll write down a bullet note, or sometimes during the conversation, if Craig said something and I want to circle around, I might write a quick note to remind me to follow up with that. But I have no script. I didn't send him a script a week ago, and I said, all right, memorize your lines. This is just a live conversation, and it's a live conversation. We just have, you know, a couple, 200 to 300 people watching. That's the only difference. No pressure. So, Craig, before we actually jump in and get real deep in the weeds on this topic, tell everybody specifically what you do. I gave them a window there, but let them know what's your full-time job, would we say?
Well, I'm a full-time appraiser. That's what I do. Later today, I've got a conference call with the Department of Transportation. We're doing some condemnation work and getting ready to work on some kind of nasty condemnation where people are not happy about having their stuff taken. But I do residential appraisals and commercial appraisals, and I started a business with a friend of mine 30 years ago, and it's grown a little bit since then, but it's essentially been a way for us to give our kids jobs. And we have a few others that aren't related, but it's been a good experience for us.
Great. All right, I need to catch up 1 minute here, so give me 1 second. And let's just talk real quick. You know, we're going to focus on COVID today, but let's talk for just a second in that we have, I mean, everything's closing. You know, I mean, we've had businesses closing. A lot of appraisers have been able to continue to work, and we're going to focus on that conversation today. But some have adapted the way they work. Some have paused their work. But we'll get into that in just a minute. You know, there's a lot of appraisal conferences around the country. And the nice thing about that is it brings appraisers together. You have an opportunity to meet the vendors, the software providers. You have an opportunity to listen to more than just one instructor. Like the other day, we had a live virtual USPAP class with Appraiser eLearning, and anybody can get into that. You got to have your book and all that good jazz, but it functions very, very similarly to a live class. It is a live class. The only difference is you're watching me the way you are today. And I would be watching you. Now, everybody that's the 200 plus 250 folks watching right now, I can't see you. And quite frankly, I can't see your comments. So don't be mad at me if you say, hi, Bryan, how you doing? I don't see that. And I apologize. I'm doing great, but I can't see it. Somebody, Danny just said, Bryan, glad you're doing better. Ben just shared that with me. Otherwise I wouldn't have seen it. And then Ben also just notified me. Many folks are saying, glad you're better. So thank you, everyone watching, that knows kind of what happened to me. Thank you very much. I'm humbled, and I honestly appreciate that. I had a lot of people pulling for me, a lot of people praying for me, and God saw it fit to kind of bring me back. So thank you very much to all of you that reached out and or just said a private prayer. It means more to me than you'll ever know. So thank you very much. So Craig, let's talk about that a minute. You know, I was supposed to be in Las Vegas for Valuation Expo in March. The Appraiser eLearning team, some of us were going down. I was going to teach USPAP live. The ACTS conference, the Appraiser Conference and Trade Show, brought to you by NAA, and then Appraiser eLearning helps out with that. We had to postpone that one. That one was supposed to be in April in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. We don't know about some of the other ones, right? The Appraisal Foundation meetings have been postponed or done virtually. What are your thoughts on that? Are these conferences going to come back, or are they now a thing of the past because of COVID? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I hope they come back. I think there is just nothing like interacting with other appraisers. You know, it's always interesting to me that in USPAP, we're supposed to use the standard of practice of what our peers do. And far too often, appraisers kind of sequester themselves in their little office and they have very little interaction. And my experience serving on the appraisal board is that oftentimes people would make a judgment call without conferring with some of their peers. And the next thing they know, they've made a poor choice and have themselves in a bind because the way they thought was the best way to approach a problem wasn't. And having the ability to interact with other appraisers, with vendors, there's nothing else like it. The virtual stuff I think is great, but it's not going to take the place of the live event. And so I'm hopeful that we can get back to this.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. The virtual is great. And if we got appraisers out there that's resisting, you've never done it, try one. You're probably going to love it. So far, everyone that's been in my classes have said, man, this is a lot better than what I thought it would be. And, I say, okay, we're going to break for lunch. All they do is walk over to their kitchen and make a sandwich or something, right? I mean, so they don't have the travel, they don't have the expense, and it's easier on me. I didn't have to drive back home from Knoxville I was going to do one in Ashland, and we were able to reschedule a lot of those folks in another virtual class, and it worked perfect. But
and the advantage, Brian, with your virtual classes is that it's better than the online. I occasionally, my license renewal in Nevada is kind of screwed up to where it's right in January. Yeah. And I like to get the newest version of USPAP before I renew. But, they're kind of crazy with the way that they handle their renewals. I've taken classes, USPAP classes from USPAP certified instructors because Nevada, they don't have a Nevada number, or the course didn't have a Nevada number, they won't accept it. And so you're having to go online to try to take a class, and taking these things online is tedious at best. And so the virtual class, in my view, is a far better way to do it because you get that interaction that's just beyond reading through the screen on the computer.
Yeah. And it depends. Everyone has their preference. Some people like the ability of the online, and they can hop on and take an hour and then get off. And then 2 days later, hop back on, take another hour. And so there's something to be said about that. Some people just like to work at their own pace like that. But the virtual class allows very much like a live class. It is a live class. And it's just like what we're doing right now. You can ask questions, you can interact. And so it's a good alternative since we're all kind of quarantined or stay at home orders. So on those conferences, and then we're going to get back into appraisers directly. The ACTS conference, I believe they're talking about rescheduling that for August. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got 2 dates that we're looking at. We're looking at the second week in August as a preferential date. The problem we've got is the facility is completely closed down and we can't talk to anybody. So we think that we're okay for that date, but we kind of hate to go push a bunch of media out there only to find out that somehow somebody else got slipped into that slot and then we have to go redo everything. So at this point, we're planning on Bay St. Louis, Mississippi in August, and we think hopefully around the second week of August. But it'll be it should be a great event, and we hope a lot of people will come.
Very, very good. Very, very good. Yeah, there's folks typically from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, from the FHA or VAs. Not always, but typically. Sometimes we have the FBI there talking about appraisers that get in trouble, or mortgage professionals that the FBI comes knocking at their doors. And guys, that really happens. That's real world stuff. So you get a variety of speakers, and you can meet all the vendors, and it's really a good time. If you've never been to a show, a conference or trade show, I highly recommend you go. And NAA has been adamant about, let's move it around. We don't want to have, there's one out in Las Vegas every year. You should go. Las Vegas Appraisal Summit out there. It's a great show. They do a great job, and you should go. But this NAA has pushed to, let's move it around. So the first year we were in Nashville, we got close to appraisers in that area. The next year we were out by you, Craig, in Salt Lake City. We're around appraisers out in that area. This year we're supposed to be in Mississippi, and we're trying to get there. We're going to do deep sea fishing and a crawfish boil, and it was going to be a great time. So hopefully we can still pull that off. But next time we'll be doing it another location across the United States. So let's get into the topic at hand here. Craig, you said that your office does some residential work as well as commercial. What have you been doing on your residential end? Are you still getting requests to do a 1004 form where you actually physically go in the house?
Almost everything that we get right now is for the interior inspection. Okay. I was talking to an AMC management guy, and he was saying, yeah, we've seen a real increase in the number of drive-bys. It's gone up by 100%, but what that represented is that it meant that 95% of their orders are still for interior inspections and only 5% are for the drive-bys. And so while the number has increased in relative terms, most lenders still prefer to have the appraiser inside the house looking at the property.
Yeah. So what are you doing? Are you suiting up?
Yeah. So what we do, and I've got an assistant that I have call and talk to the property owner. And basically we're screening the property owner because we don't want to send an appraiser. I don't want to go into a house where the person has been sick or they've traveled outside the area. My wife is a cancer survivor. She's on some meds. She had a malignant tumor taken out at the end of last year. And so her immune system's compromised, and she doesn't want me bringing back a virus that is going to cause a problem.
She's doing good right now, Craig.
Yeah, she's doing great. Yeah, she's other than the meds kind of mess with you, but
praise the Lord.
The problem that you run into is that you can't see, you don't know, and so we're filtering, and we don't want to go into somebody's house if there's any sickness going on. And if that happens, and so far we really haven't found that to be the case, but if it were to happen, we'd be contacting the lender to let them know that we've got a problem. And
yeah, I was about to ask you, when you call to schedule your appointment, you say, hey, has anybody in your house been sick or are they presently sick? Are they running a fever? If they were sick, has it been a good 14 days? All that. So far, no one has said, yeah, I was feeling kind of bad last week. You haven't run across?
We have, yeah, so far we haven't. And so it hasn't been a problem, but our protocol would be to contact the lender and either cancel the assignment or see if they'd implement one of the appraisal flexibility changes to where we could do something else depending upon what would be appropriate.
Yeah. So we've got questions coming in already, Craig, and I just want to get to one because it says quickly. I don't know why it says quickly, but we'll go ahead and try and answer that one. And then guys, if you're asking questions, keep them coming. We'll get to many as we can, and we'll probably get to all of them. But I'm gonna just kind of pick and choose as we go along. So don't feel like I've skipped you or left you out. Mike M, quickly, please. What is your liability and the lender's liability if COVID rears its head with anyone involved in an interior inspection? So I guess what Mike's saying is you go into a house and you do the appraisal and you leave, and 3 days later, somebody starts having symptoms and now they think it was you. We don't know if it was you or not, but they think that it was because you were in their house. Do you, as the appraiser, and does the lender for that matter, have any potential liability there? What are your thoughts, Craig?
Well, number one is if you don't have it, you can't give it to somebody. Okay. So you can't give them something you don't have, which is why as appraisers, we have to be hyper vigilant to make sure that if you can be checked, get checked. If you're feeling any kind of illness or symptom or anything that suggests you might have the virus, don't go into people's houses. If that kind of situation were to arise, I mean, if I had somebody notify me that they ended up with the virus after I had been in their home, first thing I'm going to be doing is going in to get checked, because we don't know what the liability is, but clearly I think an attorney could probably make a case for liability if you were in someone's home and you had it and you gave it to somebody. You probably have a problem, and that is clearly a risk. I think, though, that if you're using reasonable precautions, it would be really hard to give it to someone if you're not touching them, if you're wearing a mask, if you're wearing gloves. You're not, I'm probably more worried about me getting it from them than I am from me giving it to them. So
let me, and if Peter Christian's watching, or Craig Capella's watching, and you want to chime in to give us your opinion, please, please yell at Ben, and we'll pull you into the show. John Dingman crashed our party the other day. He came in, which is fine. But I'm saying, if there's an attorney watching right now that would like to give their 2 cents, we'd love to hear your opinion. Mike, Craig, nor I are attorneys, and keep in mind, if we do pull an attorney in, it's just their opinion. I mean, I'm not trying to downplay an attorney, but it is just their opinion. They're not law. They're just offering an opinion, just like Craig and I could offer an opinion. But I value Craig's opinion as well as Peter's. So if either one of them are watching and want to chime in on that, that would be wonderful. Where did I get it? Well, I don't know is the answer. But my birthday was March 9th, and we went out that weekend. I think it was a Friday night, might have been Saturday. I think it was a Friday night. We went out. We had dinner at Bar Louie. My daughter stopped by, and there were about 6 of us there. She left. And then the one guy, he and his wife had the grandiose idea to, let's go to the karaoke bar. So we went over there. It's attached to a bowling alley, and they got a little restaurant in there too. And we hung out in there and had a couple cocktails or adult beverages, and we sang a little karaoke. And I did notice the guy was wiping the microphone off every time. Now, here's the question. Did I give it to them, or did they give it to me? Or did I even get it there? I have found out subsequently that about 5 or 6 people that were there that night got it. I mean, they got it, tested positive for COVID. And the guy that came in the hospital after me died, and he was there that night. So I don't know. Could I sue them? Do they have liability? Who knows? That's just such a hard way to prove that that's where you got it. Even if Craig went in the house 2 or 3 days later, somebody tested positive, and we come after Craig and find out, we get Craig tested and find out he did have it, there's still no guarantee they got it from him. I mean, I just think that would be a really, really uphill battle to try and, anybody could sue anybody for any reason. And Craig would obviously have to defend himself, but we've got to do the best we can. So here's a comment. And guys, I always say, put your name on there. I mean, the USPAP police is not watching. Nobody's going to throw you in jail. All these people come in anonymously, and I guess that's okay. But we're having a friendly conversation, and you can disagree with Craig and I. I mean, you're entitled to be wrong. I'm just kidding. I couldn't help that. But I have a gentleman. I don't know his name. It just says Appraisal Services. So hi, Appraisal Services, whoever you are, wherever you're located. He says, Fannie Mae rules on what qualifies for exterior/desktop are a joke. Of course, they want the appraiser in there. It's not their problems. Most property owners do not want you coming in. Well, I might agree with that most property owners might not want you coming in. I get it. I totally get that. But Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac is a joke. I don't know if I agree with that. Here's what it is, Appraisal Services. We have Freddie Mac coming on the show Monday. Come on. Ask them some tough questions. We encourage a lively debate. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, Scott he may just say, look, you know who I am. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to answer any of your dang questions unless you quit being anonymous. I don't know. Don't be afraid. So anyway, it's okay to ask a tough question. Nobody's going to, start pulling every report you send in and review. At least I don't think they will. So, Craig, what are your thoughts on that? This man or woman, whatever they are, has said that they think Fannie Mae's policy is a joke with desktops, that they still want us going in, but it's the property owners or the consumers that are really, and rightfully so, the property owners are a little concerned or scared.
There's no doubt. And, we find ourselves in kind of a conundrum because as we look at the traditional lender risk scenario for making these loans, in the past, in the last 5 years or so, the risk, you got the three elements of lender risk or loan risk. And the first is the ability to repay. Does the borrower have the ability to make the payments on the loan? The second is what is their credit history? And then the third is what am I using as collateral to securitize that loan? Well, in the last month, we don't know what the borrower's ability to repay the loan is because we're finding record unemployment. And so lenders are saying, gee, the risk for repay is higher than it was a month or two ago. We don't know what the deferments and some of these things are going to do to credit scores, but I think there's a possibility that you're going to see credit scores drop as we see some of these other things going on. So the only thing that is left in that credit risk analysis is the collateral that's being offered up as security. And lenders are saying, the appraiser is more important now than he ever has been before because we need reliable valuation. We want to know what the collateral looks like because all of the other two elements of risk have been compromised, at least in some degree. And so the lenders, by just, if you're looking at from their perspective, they're worried about it. And the reality is if I'm a lender, if I'm a mortgage broker, I don't want to have a buyback. If I get a default in the first couple of months on this loan, you can pretty well guarantee the GSEs are going to come back and look at that file pretty closely and want to buy back. And so I understand that on the one hand, you've got borrowers who don't want some strange guy walking in there, guy or gal walking in their home and putting their families at risk. And as an appraiser, we don't want that either. But at the same time, the appraiser is now more important than they've ever been. And so we find ourselves in a little bit of a dilemma. How do we deal with this? And I think the reality is lenders value what appraisers bring to the table. We just have to figure out how we do this in a way that doesn't create a problem.
Yeah. Now, Craig, as president of the NAA, and gosh, believe it or not, our time we're already at the halfway mark. So if you don't mind, I might keep you on a few extra minutes because this is a hot topic. We got nearly 300 people watching. We got questions rolling in like crazy, and I'd like to get as many of those. So if you're gracious enough to let me keep you an extra 5 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm going to do that. But let's shift gears for just a second and we'll come back full circle. As president of the National Association of Appraisers, and for anyone watching, we encourage you to get involved. I mean, we highly recommend that you get involved. Thank you for being here. You're getting involved by being here today and you're asking questions, and I love it, right? That's a way to get involved. But we'd love for you to get more involved. And you as an appraiser can make a difference. You can help shape the next edition of USPEP if you get involved. You can help shape PREA. How many watching this program right now know what PREA is? You should. PREA is something that's coming out. It's coming, and it will help shape the future generation of appraisers, how appraisers are trained. And if you want to Google that, it's Practical Applications of Real Estate Appraisal. They want to know your thoughts and opinions. How should we proceed? If you're strongly opposed to it and say, I think you ought to kill it, then say you ought to kill it. But get involved with your state coalitions or your state associations. If you're not a member, join today. All right? Get involved. Utah just passed a law. Yay, Utah. Well, how's that help you down in Florida or in Indiana? It doesn't help you at all. So the National Association of Appraisers have all appraisers across the country's best interest in mind. And we'd love for you to join. It's a nominal fee, but don't just join, get involved. Help to try and make a difference. So, Craig, what has the NAA been doing? How have they been getting the word out? I know that you have something called a 411. As president of the NAA, how are you getting the word out to your members, or anyone for that matter, about, hey, Fannie Mae just came out with a new policy, or FHA is requiring this, or maybe think about doing this? What's your way to communicate NAA's position to appraisers?
Bryan, the 411 that you've referenced is the communication platform that we've got. And every time we get a new protocol from a GSE, from a lender, or others that we think is something of note that's noteworthy, we send that out to all of the membership so that they can be aware and have the appropriate information that they need. I think the problem a lot of appraisers have had is they're getting spammed to death with COVID stuff.
Yeah.
And so we have tried to keep it to a point where we're dealing with the most relevant material, but there's still a lot of problems going on out there where people misunderstand what the guidelines are, when appraisal flexibilities apply, how to do them properly. And so we will continue to provide some of the information as it becomes available so that we're not putting ourselves in trouble by doing things wrong.
Great. And I know NAA gets involved, their governmental affairs a lot. Viewers and appraisers across the country have no idea, but you guys got a letter from the appraisal subcommittee saying, hey, you guys carry a lot of weight. You don't have to add your name onto somebody else's letter. Just send us a letter and we'll take it under advisement, because the NAA is a very powerful organization, and governmental agencies and the Appraisal Foundation and other entities value what you have to say as a membership. So that's awesome. Let me ask you a couple more questions. There's a Jim B says AMCs are ordering Pennsylvania interior appraisers, which are currently prohibited by the governor. I've sent them a PDF from the state and they just keep ordering them. And then to dovetail that, here's another one from, his name is Who Cares, a Pennsylvania appraiser. And I just lost him. Who Cares? Pennsylvania, we are not permitted to do interior inspections, yet AMCs keep sending interior assignments. Do AMCs make any effort to acquire which states do not permit interior inspections? And before I let Craig respond to that, I'm just going to say this. Who Cares and Jim B, I'm going to personally invite both of you to participate on a webinar. And I would like for you to give me a couple of names of the AMCs that are sending you requests for interior orders, and we will reach out and invite them to be on the webinar. Now, let's get ready to rumble. You can't come hit them, but you can hit them with words. Okay. So if Who Cares? I don't even know your name, right? You're going to have the courage to give me your name. I'm not going to put you on the program and introduce you as Who Cares, but here's my personal invitation to you. If you want an answer to that question, let's get it on. Let's figure it out. I will personally reach out to whatever AMCs you provide me their name. You tell me that they're requesting interior orders of appraisal inspections in a state where your governor says it's not allowed. I'll have you on the program. Let's get Jim B on the program. He's from Pennsylvania. We'll get a couple of AMCs that have been sending it. Let's have a conversation. Let's try and solve that problem. I'm willing to give you the platform to do that. I'm willing to be the host or the mediator in this case, or referee. So contact Ben Maxwell. Ben, give them your contact information. I'm happy to figure that out for you. Okay. Craig, what are your thoughts on that? If the AMCs don't respond, they don't want to be on my show. What are your thoughts on that? You've got a governor that's shut it down and said, hey, you can't do it, but yet you still got clients or agents on behalf of the clients sending you orders to do something that the governor has strictly prohibited you to do?
So, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is that most of these AMCs, in fact, I think all of them now are regulated by a state agency, real estate, you know, the Department of Commerce or the Division of Real Estate or something regulates these folks. And having served for 8 years on one of these agencies, I learned something that I didn't really realize is that agencies don't think there's a problem unless somebody complains. Everything's great unless somebody tells them it's not great. And so the first thing I'm doing is I'm calling my state regulatory agency that has oversight with that AMC and say, hey, you have a regulated entity that's asking us to do things that's in conflict with law as imposed by the governor. What are you going to do about it? And my guess is that most of your regulatory agencies will reach out and say, hey, we have a stay-at-home order. These guys are non-essential. They are deemed as non-essential. They can't do this. And if you keep inviting them or requesting or trying to get this stuff done, maybe that regulatory agency will take some kind of action to try to, you know, put a stop to some of that kind of activity. But that's the first thing I think I would be doing. The second thing is I probably wouldn't go do it. And I would let them know that, you know.
Or you're going to call the AMC and say, okay, well, I need you to come bail me out of jail because I got arrested for doing an appraisal that you sent over when it's against the law right now. And so I'm in jail. So you need to come bail me out like right now. Right. So, all right. So I was serious about that invite, though. If Who Cares and Jim B want to be on the program, let's get you on. And we'll reach out to the AMCs that you're talking about. Let's get them on. Let's figure it out. Hey, we're past the halfway mark. So everybody take a breath, take a pause. We're not going anywhere. This is Bryan Reynolds. You're watching the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you by the fine folks at Appraiser eLearning. Hey, if you need some CE, come check us out. As you see, we have no sponsor of this program. We provide this to you free. So I'm taking my time to be here. Mr. Morley's donating his time. Ben Maxwell's taking his time to be here. We're not charging you a fee for this service. We're offering 3 within a week, free of charge to you. But guys, we got to keep the lights on, right? So the next time you need some CE, please think of us over at Appraiser eLearning. Craig, what's your favorite number?
13.
13. So let's do this, Ben. Can we do a C13 for a discount code? That would stand for C for Craig, and 13 is his lucky number or favorite number. So if we do a C13, we'll give you a 15% discount on any of our online classes. Now that doesn't apply to our virtual classes. That would just be on any of our online classes. Go on there, check it out. We have several courses available for you now, and you can take those at your leisure. C13. In addition, we're offering USPAP virtually for as long as we can do that. So you can go to appraiserelearning.com, watch for the emails. I send some emails. Log on to that. We had, Ben, what we have? Maybe 25 people in class yesterday, something like that.
Yep.
So we had about 25 people in our USPAP class. I think I didn't see evaluations, but at least many of them told me they liked it. So hopefully that's the case. Again, all these sessions are recorded. You can go back and watch these at any time. And finally, if you'd like to be on the show, I just invited two of our viewers today to be on the show. If you would like to be on the program, please reach out to Ben Maxwell. If you would like to see someone else on the show that you think would be a good guest, informative, give you something of value, we'll reach out to them and see if they will be on the show. So again, don't forget your discount for 15%. C13, Ben will have that up shortly where you can go in and buy that. And even if you don't need CE right now, you're going to need it in 6 months. You can go ahead and buy it now, use that, and Ben will figure out a way to make that still good for you during that time frame. All right, back to Craig Morley, president of the National Association of Appraisers, chair of the Evaluation Committee of the National Association of Realtors, and a practicing appraiser, and probably the most important part, just a really good guy. Okay, so here's some more questions, Craig. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. How are E&O insurance companies handling liability issues? From Mike H. Any idea on that, Craig?
I don't know the answer to that. Peter Christensen, if he's on, might be able to answer that, but I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we'll reach out to Peter and have him on another show. How about this question from George K? Are you allowed to ask about health issues? I thought that was a privacy issue, and they won't allow that.
I think the reality is that we live in a world where we're putting ourselves at risk. I don't think you can ask specific health issues, but interestingly enough, Monday, the gym that I go to opened back up. Utah's starting to open up some of the businesses. And when we go in the door, they're asking, have you manifest any symptoms? You have to wash your hands before you go in, wipe everything down when you're done with it. And so the reality is that I think if you were a government agency, it might be a different thing. But if you're looking to go into somebody's home and asking general questions, I have a hard time thinking that you're going to violate any privacy issues. If the people are unwilling to answer the questions, then I'd probably just not proceed with the appraisal. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah. Here's a question directly for you, Craig. This is from Steve. He even put his last name, but I'll just say Steve B. For Craig, on your Facebook post, you spoke about an Android measuring app. Which one do you recommend? Also, what do you recommend for use for an iPhone, a measuring device app?
So what I found is that there's a couple of really cool apps that are out there. There is one called Measure that works on your Android phone, but it's not very reliable. It's glitchy. And so the app on the iPhone or the iPad, I've got the iPad Pro Plus 2020, which has a LiDAR camera sensor, and that it's built into the operating system, the Measure tool, and it is really accurate. And I'm surprised at how accurate it is. And so where I like it is you're outside and you can't see the corners, you can't see your laser dot. You can go put this thing right on the corner, walk over to the other, hit the button, and it gives you the measurement. And it's within it's within an inch on everything I've been able to tell. So it's pretty good.
Very cool. This one this gets me. In December, and ladies and gentlemen, you can go back and watch any of our prior broadcasts. All right. So we have a YouTube channel. That's how you're watching us right now. And that's why I recommend you go ahead and click subscribe. You can hit videos. You can look at most popular or by order. Back in December, we did a show, and we had Julie Jones on from Class Valuation and Mr. George Dell out from California. We had both of those folks on the show, and we ended the show by asking, what do you think, looking forward, what do you think appraisals are going to look like in the future? And they gave their prediction. And then I gave my prediction. And my prediction, you go back and watch it. I'm not going to do the long version, but basically my prediction was this, that we're becoming such a generation of antisocial folks. Everybody does something on their phone. They don't like to meet in person. The kids, especially, right? And my long-term prediction was that we are going to have property data collectors, and appraisers are going to be doing more of desktop products. Appraisers are like, no, I don't want to do that. And now appraisers are like, I want to do desktop because of the pandemic, right? And my prediction was this. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it may be 5 years from now, 3 years from now, 2 years from now. But I honestly believe in the near future, property owners or occupants will take pictures or videos of their own house, take data point entries, notes, and send it to the lender or the appraiser, and appraiser will use that information. And every time I say that, Bryan, you're nuts. That's crazy. That's never going to happen. Well, guess what's happening now, folks? That's exactly what's happening. I should be a gazillionaire. I need to go to Vegas and figure this out, because how was I right? Now, I certainly didn't think we were going to have an evil, nasty virus that shut down not only the United States, but the entire world for that to happen. Who could have predicted that? But that was my prediction. And guess what, guys? Lenders and AMCs and Jeff Bradford and all these people are creating this data collection tool for property owners to get it. Julie Jones talked about theirs at class the other day. And the cool thing about it is it's geocoded. So if I say, hey, I need you, Daniel asked this question, Daniel, I need you to take pictures of the interior of your house and send them to me. If he says, oh man, my mom just updated her kitchen and bath and she only lives a couple of blocks from here, Craig, I'm going to run over to mama's house and take pictures of her kitchen and bath and then send that in to Bryan and Craig and say, look, I just updated my kitchen and bath. Well, you dang crook, you thief, you jerk. That won't work, because if you do it through one of these companies, it's geocoded. And that's why they don't want you to just have the homeowner take pictures and text them to you as the appraiser, because you don't know where they took those, right? If you go through one of these software providers, it's geocoded. So it tags where they're at when they take the photograph, keeps them honest. So here's a question. Daniel M. says, what are your thoughts on all of the homeowner assisted inspection apps that have been launched in the last couple of weeks? Somebody else, Jeff H. says, Total has a new software that you can send a link to the borrower to get interior photos of the subject. Has anyone used it yet? Haven't tried the new software, but have had borrowers do a FaceTime walkthrough after I measure the house and I'm in the driveway, then take interior photos and send to me. That's worked well so far. Lender in East Tennessee asking us to have the homeowner. This is from JC. Lender in East Tennessee asking us to have the homeowner take the interior photos and or video and send it. Asking also to do sketch using a CRS footprint, but still use a 2055. So what are your thoughts on all of that, Craig? We're now in a situation where, while we as appraisers have resisted this stuff, I ain't doing that. I got to go in the house and see it, smell it, touch it before I sign my name to it. And you had a lot of lenders and AMCs say appraisal modernization. We want it. We're like, no. And they're like, yes. And now the roles have reversed. Appraisers are like, hey, I'd really just love to not go in the house, as well as the homeowners don't want us to. But now we still have lenders sending the 1004. Make up your mind, people. What's your position? So, Craig, what are your thoughts on all these tools coming down the road that would allow us to gather information from the property owner or occupant?
I think the tools are a great assist, provided that it fits the scope of work and the work assignment that we've agreed to. What we're getting back from Fannie Mae is that they're having problems where a 1004 has been ordered, just a traditional 1004. Then the property owner is doing a virtual walkthrough, and Fannie Mae saying, hey, that appraisal is ineligible for us to accept. Yeah. If the appraiser hasn't personally been inside the home, the virtual walkthrough is not appropriate for that appraisal product. So if we're going to do that stuff, we need to communicate with our clients and tell them what we intend to do and make sure, because your client's basically putting themselves in a situation where they may end up with a buyback if this loan goes through and it discovers that you didn't do what you said you did. The problem you've got is when you sign that 1004, unless you use the exact language that you're supposed to use by Fannie Mae, yeah, and you define in the map reference number if it was a desktop or a drive-by, which, by the way, Fannie's saying, don't make a... doesn't say reach at zero. Hold on, I don't know what's going on here. The customer didn't lose their job when I did. Yeah, that's weird.
You activated something, but that's your
something.
Your virtual assistant.
Yes.
Listen, this technology is crazy. Julie ordered a new Fire Stick the other day or whatever, and we've got it. And complimentarily, they emailed us also one of these little Amazon things that has I don't know if it's Amazon, but it's something. It's got Alexa on there, right? And so now I'll wake up in the morning. I'll say, Alexa, what's the weather today? And she'll tell me what the weather is today, and And so the other day, and we use it for just dumb stuff, Alexa, how old is George Clooney or whatever, right? And so the other day, Julie was in the other room, and I said, "This damn thing's not working." And she came in, she said, "Maybe because you're calling her by the wrong name. She doesn't like it." Because I would be like, "Siri, what time is it in California?" Siri,
my iPad really is perking up right now.
I'm like, "This damn thing's not working." And she said, "Maybe because you're calling her by the wrong name." I said, "Oh, you think she doesn't like that?" And so then I started calling her Alexis. She said, "Bryan, you're still wrong." I give up. But yeah, the technology we have today is crazy, and we ought to consider embracing that. So
it really is. And one of the things, Bryan, I sent to Ben a little property information worksheet that we use. So if I'm doing a drive-by, or even if I'm not, I will send this to people before we come and look at the property, so they can provide information to us about, what have you remodeled your kitchen? You updated your kitchen? What'd you do? When you do it? How much did you spend? And this is available for anybody that wants to go to the link and download it. So if you're trying to make sure you collect the best possible information, this is an NAA branded fillable PDF that you can send to your clients.
Is that something? So is that something you can share, or is that just for NAA members? Or
no, anybody can use it.
I'll pull it up right now, and I just posted the link in the chat. But if y'all want me to share it now, I can pull it up.
Great. Yeah, put that up. So this is a document that Craig is saying that he's put together, and this is as you can see, it's NAA branded. But he said, even if you're not a member, you're welcome to use it, which is very nice of him. And you said this is a clickable format, so you can email this to the property owner, and they don't have to print it out and fill it out by hand. They just go right in there and type in whatever they want to do, right?
Right. Yeah. So the idea with this is that a lot of times I'll get in rural areas, and I don't know if it's on what the water source is. It a well? Is it what is it? Are the roads maintained? It allows me to be able to get some information that might be hard. I can go in and see what's happened in the kitchen, what did they do, and gives them a place to go in and spend a little time telling me what happened. And I think I like it whether I'm going in the house or not, just because I now have a permanent record from the property owner that I can put in my work file. So if somebody comes back and says, "You failed to consider the solar system that I had," and I say, "Well, you told me it was leased on the form," and and so I've got a better work file note that I can use. And so if
I love it. I used to do something very similar to that. Scroll on down, and I was planning on going back and doing something. Craig, if it wouldn't hurt your feelings, could I make a recommendation or two to add something down at the bottom of this?
Sure, absolutely.
How many is this? Is that the bottom right there? It says page 2 of 2.
Yeah, that's the bottom, and it just gives you a
one recommendation I would make right now is to put a place down there for them to sign it. Okay, have them sign it. Now listen to the last recommendation, and maybe we use Peter Christensen's language. I would put a little disclosure right above their signature place that says, the property occupant or the property owner acknowledges, the appraiser observes, analyzes, and reports an opinion of value to the client. They further acknowledge that the appraiser is not a home inspection, and this observation is not technically exhaustive or equivalent to a home inspector. Buyers or property owners need to secure their own home inspection and satisfy themselves about the condition, or something like that. Just something that that sends a big flash warning that they need to. Sorry, somebody's calling me, and I don't know why. Right during my show, but anyway.
I love it. I think it's a great idea, and we'll go and add the signature line with the disclosure. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Ben, for sharing that. If anybody wants that, I think Ben made that available where you could get it. Guys, we're out of time, but I'm going to keep him another minute or two. Daniel M. asked this question, and this is a great question and a way for me to tell something that's coming out to you guys. It was supposed to come out this week and it didn't, but it'll be out. Ben, that Freddie Mac podcast will be out Tuesday. Is that right? I don't want to say it if it's not true.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Daniel M says, would having the prior listing data and images available within such an app be useful? Craig, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I'm a proponent for getting as much information as I can, and then telling my client what I used and what I did. I don't want to misrepresent the property, and some of the old listings may be dated and may not accurately reflect the condition of the property, but it's probably better than not having seen anything at all, as long as I make sure that my client knows that these listing photos or these photos were from an old listing, so they can determine how much reliance to give on those, but it's probably better than nothing at all.
Yeah. So everyone watching, listen to this real quick. I had Freddie Mac call me a week or so ago, 2 weeks, whatever it was. And he says, I have a great idea for you for a podcast. And I'm like, oh, lay it on me. You need to listen to the podcast. It'll come out next week on Tuesday. It'll be sent to everybody's email box. Ben, if you could put a link up where folks can find our podcast if they're not currently on our email list. And if you're not currently on our email list, get out your phone right now and do this, and I'll put you on the email list. Get out your phone, open up your text message, and send a text. What do you want first, the number or the word first? I'm going to give you both. The number is 66866, and the word I want you to type in is learn, L-E-A-R-N. So send a text right now. L-E-A-R-N is the word, and the number is 66866. Hit send. That's going to put you in Bryan's special little email club, okay? And it'll make sure that you start getting emails from us on a regular basis if you're not already. But you need to do it even if you are, because it kind of puts you in Bryan's club or Bryan's group. So you're special now. So if you text 66866 the word learn, you're in. It's going to ask you to put your email address in. We're not going to send you, a virus or anything like that. No, there's enough viruses going on out there right now. But that way, Daniel, you'll get the podcast. You guys need to listen. In a nutshell, Freddie Mac called me up and said, man, I got this appraisal report. This is a great podcast to get the word out. Freddie Mac wants to genuinely know what the property looks like. They want to know the condition of the property. If it's a C6, put C6. Yeah, they're not going to get the loan, but that's what they want you to do. They don't want you to commit fraud. And in this particular example, I'm going to give you the condensed version. The appraiser said it was C4, said it had typical deferred maintenance, like all the other houses in the area. This part killed me. Ready? In accordance to the inspection, there was no functional or external obsolescence noted. Now, wait a minute, dude. This is a desktop appraisal. In accordance to what inspection? There was no inspection, yet you put right into your report, in accordance to the inspection, there's no functional, and you didn't go in the house. So how do you know if there's functional or not? Based on an inspection, you don't. So he's already contradicting himself. And then finally, guess what? This is a secret. Everybody listen. I'm giving you a secret. Here's your secret. Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, FHA, VA, all these secondary market participants have access to your MLS. They can see what you see. So Freddie Mac pulled up the MLS. And the first two words of the MLS said, investor alert. Now, why would you say investor alert? It also said this home is being sold as is. Now, how often do you see that on a house in good condition or average condition? Hey, Craig, investor alert. This house is being sold as is. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It needs nothing. Come buy it. They're trying to get the attention of investors, probably because a non-investor is not going to be interested in the house. Then it went on to say, all major components need to be replaced and cosmetics. Then you could click and look at the pictures. for crying out loud, just listen to the podcast. You'll hear the rest of the story. But Daniel M., yeah, you can use that data, but if that data paints a picture of a house in disrepair and needs work, please don't call it a C4. You know it's not a C4, right? So anyway, that's my podcast. You guys can listen to it next Tuesday. It'll be available for you. And at the end of that phone call before the podcast, Freddie Mac said, Bryan, we really honestly want to know what the condition of this property is. You as an appraiser, you are the eyes and ears for them. And when you paint the picture of what you see, they want an accurate picture. Well, if you're doing a desktop, you haven't been in there. What Craig mentioned a moment ago, put exterior or desktop. Appraisers aren't doing that. So, we need to be careful. Monday, we've got Freddie Mac on. You guys can ask specific questions about that. In closing, Craig, what do you have to say just to the appraisal community at large? Everyone watching us right now and those that will come back and watch a recorded version, we're still in the scary time. Most areas have not opened up. We all got to try and get through this together. So what's your suggestion to the practicing appraiser out there to finish this quarantine status out?
Well, two things. One is go look at the templates that you're using for your reports. And if you've got a bunch of boilerplate that doesn't apply, especially if you're using some of these appraisal flexibilities, dump them. I think Freddie will come in and tell you they only want property-specific comments on the appraisal. They don't want a 5-page boilerplate that doesn't really apply to the property that's being appraised. And so I think a lot of times we find ourselves in a dilemma where we've got conflicting statements in an appraisal because we've got this old boilerplate that may not apply. So make sure that you're doing what you said you did in the certification, or if you're using an appraisal flexibility, make sure you're using the exact language. And Fannie wants you to paste that in as a text file because their computers can't read if you copy it in as an image. And so that's probably the first thing. The second thing is that we have to use our heads. We don't take unnecessary risks. If you're not feeling well, don't go into people's homes. And I would suggest that there's still a lot of work we can do as desktop reviews. You might need to start doing some new construction or talk to your clients and see what kind of work you can do for them if your health is compromised and it's not safe for you to go into homes. But I think the key is to communicate with your clients so that they know what the circumstances are and that we're not putting ourselves or others at risk by participating in the work that we do.
Great. And, I just want to remind everyone this, I know you're kind of getting stir crazy. You've been stuck in your house all this time. I know I am. And we want to get back to some sort of normalcy. Makes it tough. And, when I was sick, I had 3 orders and 2 of them, Craig, was from a brand new client, and they were set up and I was sick, and it was before I knew I had COVID. So if I had been able to get out of bed and go, I probably would have tried. But then I thought, well, wait, maybe I do have COVID. I've got a fever. I can't get rid of it. And I would feel horrible if I went into these houses and gave something to someone. And then, God forbid, they be an older person, something happened to them. And you don't have to be old. There's a 42-year-old that was clinging to life just last week on a respirator. Thank the good Lord, she looks like she's going to do okay now. But there's been young people to die. I mean, while I think it's not uncommon for a lot of folks to overreact to stuff, this is a serious issue, and I know because I was in it, and so we've got to use some common sense, use protective material. I was in a house recently to do a fine on, and I'm probably, I say this a lot, but I'm probably the safest guy around right now. I've got the antibodies, I'm probably safe, but out of respect for these property owners, I was there to do a final, and I put gloves on. I had a mask on. I knocked on the door. He didn't even answer the door. He just said, "Come in." And I went in, and I saw just instantly a relief on his face when I walked in that I had those on. So I did that out of respect. I did a different final last night. Same thing. Knocked on the door. I opened the door, and that lady had a mask and gloves on, as did I. Now, there was a gentleman there that did not. But I'm just kind of doing that out of respect for those property owners. My friend, we are out of time. If somebody wanted to reach out to you directly, I know you love talking about appraisal, about gadgets, about, every other thing out there under the moon when it comes to our profession. You're somewhat passionate about what you do, like I am. So if somebody wanted to reach out to you, Craig, and do me another favor, if you don't mind, somebody had asked about your Facebook posts. So you do a lot of that kind of stuff where you'll put a video on for a useful tip or trick or technique. How can somebody find those, as well as how could somebody reach out to you if they decided to reach out to you and have a conversation?
Well, if you want to, I've got a YouTube channel where I put all of this stuff, and they're just little things that I find interesting and useful. And so I'll make a little video that says, "Hey, I figured this out the other day. Maybe this is of interest to you." And if you just go into YouTube and type Craig Morley Appraiser, you'll find my face there. And if you click on that, and if you subscribe, then it'll just give you a notification every time we put something up. And we're getting something up every other week or something. We've got a couple little projects we're doing right now that should be kind of interesting. And so, if that's of interest to you, you can go there and get that. If you want to email me directly, my email is ValuePro. Value is spelled with no E. So it's just VALUPRO@gmail.com. Send me an email and I'll respond and do the best I can to get back in touch with you.
Very good. Very good. Well, Craig, thank you again, my friend, for being here. You're a very busy man. You're very well sought after. And I just appreciate the time you set aside to join us, and even that I kept you 10 minutes after the fact. So thank you very much for being here.
Brian, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Appraisal Report webinar brought to you by Appraiser eLearning. Thank you for being here. Remember, we're giving you a few things today. C13 for Craig, and 13 is his lucky number. C13 will get you a really nice discount on any Appraiser eLearning online classes. Show us a little love, if you will. We need to keep the lights on. If you text 66866, the word learn, that'll get you in Brian's special email group. And Monday, we have Freddie Mac in the house. So Monday at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, you can click subscribe on YouTube, and that way you'll be ready for that meeting. We're excited. Bring your questions. I anticipate a big audience and probably a lot of questions from you for Scott Reuter, the Chief Appraiser with Freddie Mac. Finally, if you would like to be in the hot seat, please reach out to Ben Maxwell directly, and we'll bring you on the show. We love having boots on the ground appraisers on. I just recorded another podcast yesterday with some boots on the ground appraisers. So we welcome you to be on this show as well. For Craig Morley and Ben Maxwell, I'm your host, Bryan Reynolds. Thank you for being here. And guys, please stay safe out there.